Hello and welcome to coverage of the Players' Championship here from Seattle 2012. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe. I am joined in the booth by Rashad Miller, and we are checking out a feature match here of M13 Draft between Brian Kibler, who's on the right side of the screen from above. You get a look at him there, and he's playing against Shota Yasuoka, who he's been making a big stand here at the Players' Championship, and he's looking to make a run to the top 4.
You know, I was going to mention, you know, what a great marquee matchup we have here, but come on now, we're at the Players' Championship. I guess. Yeah,
it gets a little stale saying how great these matchups are when every single one is just that.
So still no action.
No, 3 forests in a row for Kibler, and Yasuoka has also no action in 3 lands. This does not normally happen, but he's going to run a spiked Baloth out there. Will it survive? It does so far.
So, you know what, so far it's going to survive. You know, 4/2s usually don't survive a long time against the red-green decks. Either, you know, some red removal spell or just some green guy just jumps in the way.
Now, there is a red removal spell sitting in Yasuoka's hand, and he is going to main phase it here. The reason for doing this is that he can play around things like pump spells.
Yeah, like a Titanic Growth right there means that not only does the Baloth not die, but that's 4 more damage you're taking on the attack.
Right. Now we see Kibler follow up with the Sentinel Spider. It is going to attack because he doesn't mind trading up with the follow-up play from Yasuoka, which is a Garrick's Pack Leader. Now Kibler just dumps his hand on the table, making a Primal Humpies and the Green Doomblade.
Green Doomblade. Deadly Recluse.
Deadly Recluse always gets his man.
Most of the time.
Always gets his man.
I'm not going to argue. I love a Deadly Recluse, and you know what? Right now, it might be playing offense, just threatening. You know what? Okay. All of your creatures are better than my Deadly Recluse, so you're going to take this 1 damage, or
wow, that was just a sick turn for Yasuoka. He played Yeva's Force Mage. He pumped up his Pack Leader. He then Prey Upon to kill Kibler Sentinel Spider, and he even had a 2-drop follow-up play with the Hatchling there.
I mean, that's really a dream situation there. Your Yeva's Force Mage, if you can get any value out of that +2, even if it's just, you know, attacking with the creature and getting 2 extra damage, that's great. But being able to use a Prey Upon to ensure that your 4/4 stays alive against their 4/4, that's great.
Wow, so Kibler just had to use a Prey Upon with his Deadly Recluse against the Pack Leader to kill it, which is a 2-for-1 against himself. It's not something that he wanted to do, but he needs to get that thing off the table.
Well, he definitely got his man that time.
Yes. See, he always gets his man. Garrick Primal Hunter comes down. So this is going to be a big game swing. I'm assuming he's just going to make a beast. He could draw 3 if he wanted, but he would lose Garrick in the process.
Yeah. Now, I mean,
made a lot of beasts so far.
That's a consideration because there is a flyer on the board. So, you know, being able to attack for 2 or maybe even 3 in the air means that this Garrick is not going to stick around that long.
True. It also, though, is going to tie up a bunch of mana.
Yeah, everyone's attacking Garrick.
Everybody's attacking Garrick after the beast gets pacified.
And
this means that Garrick is going to die this turn.
Yep, Garrick bites the dust.
And Yasuoka has a Rummaging Goblin to follow up. That's a really nice play in that situation because, you know, he's kind of potentially running out of gas here. He's just able to take out the Garrick, and now he's going to be able to basically make all of his draws ideal. But Kibler's keeping up the pressure with a pretty sweet card here with the Pack Leader.
Right, I was just about to mention that Kibler didn't have that many cards in his hand, but one of them was a Pack Leader that just drew, which means that most subsequent creatures that he plays are just going to, you know, fuel the hand. And green has a lot of 3-power creatures, so it's going to be very valuable. If that sticks around, things are going to be up for Brian Kibler.
Truth. A Bond Beetle is going to make... Oh, that's interesting. So what it's going to do is it's going to enable the Primal Hunt Beast to trade with the Pack Leader. Of course, Kibler has to agree to this situation, but it means that it can attack.
Yeah, it means that it can attack, and Kibler knows that he really wants to draw more cards off of this pack, the Pack Leader, and he's going to offer to trade because... Well, his life total is 16, but I think he really wants to... This was an opportunity to get rid of a hexproof creature, which you don't get a lot of opportunities to do.
You do not, and especially when you combine it with the fact that he'd be taking 4 damage on top of it. All right, so Kibler has kind of an awkward Naturalize in his hand, but he's also got a Rancor, which he plays and he attacks with.
we are just offering trades one after another, and the freshly played prized elephant is going to
trade off.
Going to trade with the hub beast, but not
Yasuoka
with that
takes
Rancor.
1 damage, drops him to 9. The Rancor is still in hand, but currently Kibler doesn't have anything to put on it.
Whoa.
And mid-combat, Kibler is going to use that Naturalize. That's a little less awkward.
Yeah, you know what? The mid-combat main deck Naturalize.
So I thought the best thing he could get out of that in the current spot was going to be able to free up his beast and then attack with it, do what he did here. But I didn't think that he was going to get the Rummaging Goblin with it as well.
Yeah, now, I know both of these players, they got to take a look through each other's deck lists.
Yes.
You think it was just an oversight from Shota, or is it like, well, he probably doesn't have the Naturalize?
I don't know.
That's something that seems like it's easy to forget that there's
It does. I mean, Kibler's holding on to something in his hand for all those turns. It could just be a basic land.
Yeah.
All right, Yasuoka is now at 4.
Yeah, that's a dangerously low life, especially when there's a Rancor on the other side of the table.
Absolutely.
Because even if you get rid of that creature, you're probably taking a little bit of damage from the trample, and that Rancor is going back to his hand.
I mean, the way the board sits currently, you know, he could trade it off with the Spiked Bailoff, but like you said,
so the Spiked Bailoff does not do a good
3 damage.
Does not do a good job against trample creatures.
No, I mean, at least it trades, which is important. If Kibler doesn't have any more gas in hand, which I don't think he even has a hand at all, he does not. So, you know, if he does manage to trade it off, he takes him to a low life total here.
Yeah, I mean, this
which is exactly what he's going to do.
This is all about getting through those points of damage. And the fact that now Shota's down to 1. He's going to be down to 1 after the trample damage goes through.
So Kibler's got to decide if he wants to put the Rancor on the Elf. He decides not to.
This is one of those situations where he's afraid of the removal spell.
Good reason, yes.
Because even though Rancor goes back to your hand when the enchanted creature goes to the graveyard, if Rancor doesn't get a chance to resolve, because the target's no longer there, the Rancor just goes to the graveyard. You don't get it back.
Right.
Go.
Goblin Arsonist for Yasuoka, and just a land from Kibler.
Okay.
And a Predatory Rampage off the top will seal the deal for Yasuoka, and Kibler says, okay.
Yep, he gave him the little nod.
Yep.
I bow to you, sir.
Yeah, I was impressed. Kibler did put himself in a position to win that game, but just wasn't able to quite get through there. Iyanaga is up a game over Yuuya Watanabe.
Probably in similar fashion. Do you think?
I mean, that was fast.
You think there was a Rancor and some trading, and I think it was a
yes.
There you go. That's what I like to hear.
Red Monkey makes unique hand-built leather accessories embodying the spirit of rock and roll. Red Monkey leather goods are designed to break in and only get better with age. For Magic, they make a range of bags, belts, and cuffs featuring the mana symbols and planeswalkers. For more information, visit wizards.com/magic merchandise. All right. So a little sideboard happening here. Now, we know that Yasuoka actually has a pretty diverse sideboard, and he can actually play a lot of those cards as well.
I mean, he can literally change his deck around to, being green-white, staying green-red. He could probably be red-white if he really wanted to push that. Not that those are actually synergistic choices for what he wants to do, but he definitely has a lot of white options, especially if he thinks that he needs to be more defensive. He has a mass, excuse me, he has the 2 prize elephants, and he has a healer to pride. So he can actually go a very defensive route, gaining a bunch of life, just being a defensive deck, which he may want to be, because Kibler's deck is green, and it's beating down. It's in charge.
Yeah, and we've seen that. There's a lot of beef on the ground here, and how the players are going to manage choosing what to get rid of and when to offer trades. We saw that a ton of that here. I mean, offering trades, and basically every trade that was offered was taken.
Now, being, the actual other side of the spectrum, Kibler doesn't have a lot of sideboard options. He's playing just about all of his green cards, and he has some red spells that he's not playing, but I don't think he's going to be sideboarding.
None of them are that relevant?
No, none of them are that relevant. He's playing all of the ones that are actually relevant. And the only real sideboard option that he has, just generally, are 2 more naturalizes, but I don't know that he, is going to bring in an extra naturalize. He saw a pacifism, and if he paid attention to the deck list, he knows that there's a Oblivion Ring. So maybe at least 1 more naturalize comes in.
And Kibler was able to generate a lot of value out of that pacifism, or out of that naturalize as well. I mean, he not only was able to take out a Rummaging Goblin with it that thought he was going to just run by the poor pacified beast, but he also was able to turn it around into a pretty substantial attack thanks to Rancor.
I mean, that naturalize was a 2-for-1.
Oh, straight up.
Yeah, it was just a straight up 2-for-1.
It was.
And a
And
surprise
an important
3 damage.
2-for-1 as well.
You don't usually get a lot of 2-for-1s from your naturalizers.
No.
They're designed to, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So,
Right.
like, this one card is going to destroy your
Right.
one artifact or enchantment. And if you can get anything extra out of that, that's just gravy.
Now, I see that Yasuoka still has the Chandra's Fury in his deck, and I'm curious to see if he wants to keep that. It doesn't do a whole lot versus the green base decks. Sure, it can eventually kill an elf, but the elf has already powered out all the stuff that it's going to do by the time you actually do that. And there's not a lot of 1 toughness stuff that really matters. I mean, like I said, like taking out an Arbor Elf or maybe I don't know. There's just not that many targets.
Really, there's just the 2 Arbor Elves and an Elfish Visionary. Those
and a Visionary. But again, taking those out even on the earliest turn, which is generally turn 4 for those decks, it just isn't enough.
Yeah, but you know what?
Now, the damage to the face still matters.
Yeah, and sideboarding isn't always about, what cards you need to take out. If there's nothing better to bring in,
Sure.
it's still, it's still 1 extra damage. It could be a combat trick.
Yep.
It can make a trade happen that, isn't, just unexpected.
Yep.
Unexpected 1 damage. It can kill an Arbor Elf in response to a Rancor, which could have happened that game.
Yeah.
Arbor Elf is still a valid Rancor target, as is Elvish Visionary.
Right.
So, the 1 damage, you can't just say, there's not a lot of things with 1 toughness in this deck.
I mean, it depends. Like you said, it depends. I like a card that I would like to see him bring in would be maybe the Griffin Protector.
Okay.
Now, we did see 2 spiders on the other side, but those spiders were forced to trade with Yasuoka's big creatures on the ground, and frankly, those spiders just can't do everything, right? They can't block flyers and trade with huge guys on the ground.
Well, I think that game might have been, a specific situation where both players, their hands were just real creature heavy. They're both going off the top, and they were just offering trades. And maybe that's just the type of game they want to play. They just want to trade their creatures left and right.
Yeah. All right. So players heading back down. We hear Kibler say, "Good luck."
I'll keep. Okay.
Look at that. No mulligans again.
Yeah. Both keeps, and land goes from both players. And Kibler does have that Visionary to start things off. That's a nice way to start getting through your deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be able to do something on turn 2 because we saw the first game. These players didn't cast a spell until turn 4, and being able to not only have a play for game 2, but it draws you a card. That's actually pretty good.
All right, and he just says go. Now Yasuoka draws one of his 2 Evolving Wilds, probably going to get a forest since we haven't seen one yet. He would have, if he had a forest, he would have played it because we also see a Centaur Courser in hand. All right, Primal Hump Beast for Kibler. He is adding to his board, and he is starting to mount a bit of an offense here, although we're going to at least see a Centaur Courser from Yasuoka. It could be even something different.
Yeah, and you'd like to see your Centaur Courser out on turn 3, but, just getting it out even on turn 4 to be able to trade with a spell that your opponent played for 4 mana. You feel good about that trade.
You're getting ahead. Yep.
Yeah, you are getting ahead, even though you're not exactly ahead.
Sure, and what you mentioned as well is when your opponent gives you an opportunity to trade with a hexproof creature, you're often happy to take it.
Yeah, you just take it because you're not going to be able to interact with that creature other than blocking, attacking and blocking.
Now I see a Mark of Mutiny in Kibler's hand. He has one in the main deck. That's not a card that you would normally main deck, I don't think, but in this matchup particularly, it seems quite strong since there's just so many big creatures going back and forth. All right, Kindled Fury is going to take down. So he spent 1 mana and an attack phase to take out, again, the hexproof creature. And like you said, Rashad, that is a big deal. Yep. All right, so Aquarian Dryad and also a Centaur Courser. So the Aquarian Dryad is just a 1/1 right now.
Yeah.
But like you said, the Centaur Courser is threatening at least to trade with the Primal Hunt Beast.
Yeah, Shota has a couple of red spells in his hand, so if it be, by surprise or just happenstance, that Aquarian Dryad is going to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I see the Chandra's Fury that we were just talking about, also a Searing Spear. There also is you have this Force Mage in Choutz's hand and another Plains. He still doesn't have the second Mountain so that he can cast his Volcanic Geyser, but he doesn't have it in hand yet, so it's not super relevant.
Right. A lot of times, if you could just cast all the spells that you draw or that you have in your hand, then the mana, as long as the mana is just good enough for that, you should be able to put up a fight.
Yeah. And that Evolving Wilds goes, of course, quite a long way to help out in that regards.
So now this Yava's Force Mage is probably going to, there we go, it's going to pop up the Centaur Corsair so that we can at least get an attack in there. And
so if you're Kibler, do you block with the Visionary just to prevent the 5 full damage? I mean, is this Visionary ever going to do anything else? Can carry a Rancor?
It can definitely carry a Rancor.
I think he's got, I don't know if he's got a Roaring Primodox. That is certainly a consideration. Our crack floor reporter Sheldon Menery coming in with the knowledge there, and that would certainly be a reason to keep it around.
Ooh, and there's the Mark of Mutiny. He's going to take that Yava's Force Mage just for a little while. Give it a counter.
So he just wants to get in for a huge hit here.
That's a lot of damage.
It is. It's 3, 6, 7 damage.
Now, the Kieran Dryad can actually step in front of the Eldritch Visionary, and then the Searing Spear can both grow it and...
Ooh, and prey upon my guy, air quotes, to your guy. So you're not getting this Force Mage back.
And not only are you not getting the Force Mage back, you're just losing both. So
and he's forced.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, you have to. I mean, it's a 2-for-1 or
either way.
Yeah, it's a 2-for-1 either way. But at least this way, you keep a creature on the board.
Yeah. Wow. But what a beating. That is, man. Prey upon with Mark of Mutiny was very, very strong there.
10.
All right, and he does get a counter on the Korean Dryad thanks to that Searing Spear, and he's going to follow up with the Garruk's Pack Leader.
Now, I don't think he has any other 3-power creatures in his hand just now, but just a 4/4 body right now is doing the job. There's nothing but a 3/3 and 1/1 over on Brian Kibler's side, and no real cards in his hand to interact with, except for a Titanic Growth.
Yeah, he's got a Titanic Growth and a land. He's got a Mountain and a Naturalize in his hand. Naturalize doesn't have a target at all right now.
Well, it might have a target pretty soon. But first, we're going to do Chandra's Fury. That's going to both grow it's going to grow the Dryad, and it's going to get rid of that Visionary.
Yep, that's a big deal. And Visionary, he's gonna, yeah. See, so Kibler reluctantly has to just use Titanic Growth because that's also going to prevent attacks this turn. Now, because he doesn't care if he loses a Visionary ultimately, but now it's got, it's a 5/5.
Right.
So he can actually just eat a creature, and it's going to keep him at bay.
So it was almost like a fog. Almost.
Yeah, I mean, it made it so that he couldn't attack this turn, so yeah. All right, Flinthoof Boar and Sego. Now, he's not going to use the ability to give it red and haste. 1, 2, 3, 4. This guy, make this bigger, so that's a prize elephant. He's going to draw a card, and now we're going to see the pacifism. Now, Kibler's certainly not unhappy about this.
Well, now he has a target, but now he gets to do the exact same thing that he did game 1.
Except for that it's going to be a trade, most likely, because he's going to trade off for the Corsair as the only profitable block he has. Otherwise, he's taking 9 if he doesn't do any other blocks here, though.
Yeah, but you know what? In this situation, Naturalize did his job, which was destroy pacifism. And
right, so this makes a lot of sense here. He gets to trade probably the Hexproof. Yeah, so he's going to lose the Hexproof guy, and he's going to chump. He's going to go all the way down to 3 life.
And Kibler says he doesn't like his chances, and he draws an Arbor Elf, which doesn't really increase the chances, and there we go.
And Kibler, you hear him kind of give a sigh
so many big
there.
creatures. This didn't draw any.
He's wondering where all his big monsters are. And still in your deck, Mr. Kibler.
He says, dude.
I've like, Mark of Mutiny, prey upon his guy. He's like, Series Spears response, and plays Giant Monster. I'm like, well, I have some land.
Still
the big sigh from Kibler at the end. We've all been in that. But he's ever the sportsman, offers a handshake again and says, nice job. And again, man, Yasuoka wins again. I mean, let's not get that lost in the fray here.
He only has 1 loss.
This guy is just monster mode. So he 3-0'd the draft portion, correct?
He did. He 3-0'd. He did 3-0 this draft. And not only is he first place in this tournament, he gets a pro point for every match he wins.
Yes, he is just piling them up.
I mean, this is such a big advantage when it comes down to.
So he's 8-1 currently.
8-1. That's 8 pro points before a pro tour even happens for this season.
That is incredible. That's a huge deal for these guys. Wow. All right, so it looks like we're going to be heading over to Jun'ya Iyanaga, playing against Yuuya Watanabe, and
Jun'ya did win game 1.
He did win game 1, and it looks like he's got Yuuya up against the ropes here. I got a chance to see some of Yuuya's deck. It's pretty sweet. Blue-black, basically control list, and as you can see here, it is playing as such this game. Now, so it looks like Jun'ya's just got a bunch of ground pounders, and
Yuuya finally stabilized.
He looks like he's stable thanks to that shade.
Yeah, and all those swamps sitting next to there. That is a combo. Shade and a bunch of swamps. And he has a 2/2 flyer that's nibbling away at Jun'ya's life total.
Yep, he attacks for 2. And does he have a follow-up play? I mean, he's got to be very careful. This is an interesting board state because he really has to manage his mana carefully. He needs to make sure that he leaves up enough so that his shade doesn't die and also can survive something after. Now, let's see what Jun'ya has. Okay, so we're told, Sheldon's telling us that Yuuya has an unsummon in his hand, and I see a Turn to Slag in the hand of Jun'ya Iyanaga. So he's sort of looking at his options.
And underneath that end crust, is that a Thundermaw Hellkite?
Yes, it is.
Because I was actually looking at Yuuya Watanabe's life total, and I saw that it was at 5. And you know, we like to talk about reach when in regards to, you know, in particular red limited decks.
Absolutely.
Where, you know, you get in the early beats and you get your opponent down to say 5, and how do you get that last 5 points of damage?
Right.
But Thundermaw Hellkite is not part of that equation anymore.
Right. All right. So it looks like Jun'ya's going to attack with the Crimson Muck Wader, and I think the reasoning here is he assumes that it's going to get blocked by the shade. The shade is going to get pumped in. He's going to be able to finish it off with his Turn to Slag.
And he still has 3 mana to regenerate his
Exactly. Which he does. So the shade's a 4/4, but it's taken 3 damage.
And there is Turn to Slag. So that's going to open up the ground game.
Big time.
Big hole down the middle.
So we were told, though, that Yuuya does have an unsummon. So he can save his creature here, but then the question becomes, can he recast it and have enough to actually block? I believe so. 1, 2, 3, 4. He'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5th swamp that he'll get off of that. So he can actually still block and trade. He can eat, you know, either the other 2 creatures, or he can trade up with the fire element.
Yeah, and realistically, even if he doesn't unsummon, then he's in the exact same situation that if he does, except he doesn't have the option of replaying that shade ever. And being able to, and he's going to go ahead and go with the unsummon. So unsummoning it right now means that he can replay the shade, go get another swamp. His shade becomes that much more effective, and even if he's not in a situation to be able to block effectively with that shade, he's still in a better situation if he can at least live that turn.
Sure. He's got a Murder in hand, which, again, you know, this is such a fine balancing act that Yuuya is facing by balancing his mana. It's going to depend on, by managing his mana, I mean, it's going to depend on what Jun'ya does here, though, because, you know, finding a spot to get that Murder resolved and still, you know, be alive and have the mana up to block with the shade is going to be something that he's going to have to pay close attention to. So let's see what Jun'ya draws here. Every draw step, very, very critical at this point in the game.
Ooh, I saw a red card. That's a start. It is... What is that?
That is a Reckless Brute, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks
and
like,
so,
yep, that's
so
a
that's
Reckless
actually
Brute.
not going to do anything here. I don't think he's going to. If he plays it, it's going to have to attack.
Well,
oh, actually, you know, that does trade for either of the other 2 creatures. Right. So that actually might just be the ticket here.
And he also has the option, if he doesn't want to attack, he can always play it during his second main phase. But it looks like it's going to be first main phase, and there's going to be a big attack coming in.
Yep. I think he's just going to ship all of his guys in here, and he does exactly that. All right. So now pressure back on Yuuya. He's got to sit here and decipher this whole board. I mean,
well, Murder has to come down because he doesn't have any 3 blocks where he doesn't take 5 damage.
Right. So he's gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah. So he definitely has to murder something. But so now he's got to figure out. Okay. So I murder something. What can I? So if he murders, that he's gonna have 3 swamps left over, so he can make his Liliana shade into a 4/4.
Right. So he can block the Mock Flunkies, and you know, it still lives.
Right.
And so he's probably going to murder the biggest thing, which would be the Fire Elemental. Block the flunk. Well, looks like he's not. Yeah, he's going to block the Flunkies with the Liliana Shade. Offer trades with the other creatures and murder the Fire Elemental.
Yep.
And the Muck Wader is going to be the only thing left standing.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. It's going to drop Yuuya to 2. He's on a very thin edge here. Jun'ya has probably a whole lot of draws in his deck now. I think he's just got 2 lands. Yeah, he's got 2 mountains in hand. So it's not the situation that he has him dead yet, but he's put himself in the position to kill him pretty quickly, and I think that we're going to see Yuuya really turn on the heat if he can. I mean, that attack was very costly for for Jun'ya. I think he's drawn an Essence Scatter, which is
probably not the best.
Not really. I mean, it's nice to be able to maintain the board position because he does have such a commanding lead of it currently. But
you know, all
wow,
it takes
attack
is
with everything?
Well, I mean, all it's...
Was that lethal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
that was
10,
a lot
11,
of
12.
Down there.
Yeah.
Well, that was exactly
that
lethal.
was exactly. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I actually thought he was short, just having glanced at the board, but he actually had lethal represented, and he gets in there and kills him. So basically, Iyanaga is saying, all right, if you've got a murder, fair enough, or an unsummon, or summon actually I don't think would do it.
Unsummon,
because he could recast it and block.
Yeah, he could recast whatever gets unsummoned. So it was murder or no, and you know, these players get to see each other's deck lists. So and it, you know, sometimes you have to make that decision because I don't know why.
Join in the fun of Magic Celebration on September 8th at a local game store near you. Play in a Mini Master Magic event at no charge, compliments of Wizards of the Coast. Each participant gets one Magic 2013 booster pack while supplies last. For more information, visit wizards.com/Magic Celebration.
You know, I get so excited when someone's about to talk about Magic Celebration that I lose my train of thought because you know I can't wait to get in on these Mini Masters.
That's what that was.
It's a sweet format, and you know I just immediately just started thinking about that. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Come
Rashad.
on. Come on.
I don't know if I'm buying what you're selling here.
Well, I'm trying to sell avocados here.
Whatever that means.
Oh, is it mangoes? I'm selling
Extra large mangoes.
Extra large mangoes, $3.
Okay. We're taking a look here at Jun'ya Iyanaga. He was the world champion for last year.
I got to stand behind him doing Worlds when we were doing the draft year 4. This was Innistrad draft.
Oh, you were the one doing the recording his picks?
Yeah, and you know this was really early in this draft format. We were 2 weeks in, and I watched him second pick a mulch, and then third pick
moving in
a mulch. You know what? He was so ahead of the curve because like you know what? If you look at maybe the last 3 or 4 weeks of that format, everyone knew that you know mulch was a key card in a lot of the more powerful and the more archetypes and strategies. And you know, in the beginning, it was just this card that why would I ever play mulch? I'm not going to spend you know 2 mana to maybe.
I mean, there was definitely a point in Innistrad draft where I was in that exact same boat.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were in that boat in the beginning of the draft format, and then you play against someone with mulch, and you're like, whoa, look how powerful that is.
Yeah, especially with the synergies.
Oh yeah, a lot of synergies in that draft format. But we are playing M13 draft here.
Or indeed, no mulch in M13.
I wish there were.
I'm sure you do.
I mean, I love that card.
Looks like players have finished sideboarding. Again, sideboarding is a little different at this event just because they do have the actual deck list of their opponent sitting right in front of them for review. So, you know, I think there's a lot of room here for some pretty interesting sideboarding options of a little, you know, you know, a little like zigging and zagging and a little bluffing, and, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and you know exactly like how many problem enchantments your opponent has, like how many pacifisms they have, and how many ways do I have to answer this? Like, do I bring in a naturalized per pacifism? Does he also have like oblivion rings, things like that? Does he have a bunch of flyers I can't deal with? Should I bring in these plummets?
Sure.
I mean, he's not going to take out his flyers, so you're never going to like do that tango.
I mean, I think that what it comes down to is there's going to be some cards that you know that your opponent is going to sideboard in because they just have to.
Right.
Like, they're just very good against you and there's no reason not to. But I think that, like, definitely there's going to be a little bit of a dance between, like, well, if he brings in this, then I'd like to have that for it. So how confident am I that he's actually going to bring this card in?
Right.
You know, some of them are going to be obvious, some are not.
Right, and you know what? And it has a lot to do with how you actually end up drafting and what your card pool ends up. Because it's not going to be all the time that you look at your, you know, the 42 cards that you drafted, and you have a special card for each other deck in certain situations. It just doesn't happen that way because usually those are the really good cards, and they're just in your deck from the get-go. And it's more sometimes like the thinking outside the box, like we saw with Luis Scott-Vargas, where you know he saw Thundermaw Hellkite, and he really didn't have any way to deal with it in his original colors. So, you know, you bring in the planes, you bring in some pacifisms, and then, you know, you have an instant answer for that.
I don't see a lot of lands here. I think that both players are going to be going to 6 here. Like,
yeah,
I see a 1-lander and I believe a no-lander. So yeah, they're just both shipping it back.
So we broke the on-camera no mulligan streak.
We did it in grand fashion with both of them mulliganing.
The final game of the Marshall Rashad. We do hear from Crack Floor Reporter Sheldon Menery that Kibler did mulligan the first game of the match we watched, but that wasn't on camera. Yeah. So I'm still counting our streak.
I blame you for that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? No one saw that mulligan, so I'm not counting it in the streak. But the streak is specifically on camera mulligans, and that one didn't count.
All right, representing, doing a little shuffling, and they're going to be examining 6-card hands.
Yeah. I really like these new sleeves, the Nicobola sleeves.
Those things look sweet.
Yeah, that's the same graphic that I've been using for the Grand Prix yard.
That's right. That is where I've seen that. Are you going to battle with those sleeves or what?
I don't know. Should I? I didn't plan on not or doing it. But
I mean, do you have a hat that matches them?
I do. I think I have a couple of hats.
You do
actually, not specifically that have Nicobolas on it, but you know, I have the Nicobolas horns. and I have a couple of yellow hats, so I think I have all the bases covered.
All right, so players examining their hands. We see a little wince from Yuuya there. He doesn't look super happy.
Yeah,
Big
he is
sigh
not happy with the one island hand. But
wow, he is just in pain here with this decision. Hand on forehead.
I mean, you have to wonder, what's my 5-card hand going to look like? Your 5-card hand might only have 1 land.
Certainly what he's thinking about right now.
Yeah, and a lot of times...
Wow, look at these. Each of these decisions is so intense. It's just a mulligan call, and he is just pained by it. He does decide, though, to go back, and it looks like Jun'ya has kept his 6-card.
Yeah, and Yuuya did do the little peek. I don't know if he looked, but I saw, you know, within the next 2 draws, there was an island. Sure. But, you know, that's just one. He really
irrelevant,
needed 2 more.
sir.
I know, but he really needed 2 land in order for that hand to do anything.
To develop.
So, I mean, that's always in consideration, how many more land you need in order to keep this hand and be able to play play out with some type of plan.
Now he is on the draw here, right?
Yes, he is on the draw, so that's also in consideration. But now we're going down to a 5-card hand, and most of the time it's hard to mulligan a 5-card hand with any land. Because a 4-card hand, it's really hard to win with a 4-card hand.
Sure. What do you think he's saying right now? I don't know Japanese.
I think he's saying, I don't want to mulligan again. And
I think he's saying one time.
And Jun'ya is saying, I kind of think you should mulligan again. Think long and hard.
All right, well, there's a divination. Yeah, that's a good start.
That's how you get out of it.
And 2 lands. Yes.
Wow.
And he's also got an unsummoned to just keep things at bay somewhat. So.
Yeah, and usually you don't want to use. He has a couple of unsummons now. Usually you don't want to use your unsummons just to, you know, stop a little bit of damage. But when you know you're not going to be doing anything.
3 unsummons in his hand?
Did he just draw a 3rd unsummon?
I thought he drew another, but I'm not 100% sure.
I mean, if he did, then we are going to be very liberal with these unsummons.
Yeah, he does have 3. Yeah, he's going to be very liberal. So here's a question. Divination? Yeah, he's just got to dig out. He knows he's taking 6 here, though.
Right, but you really just want to get back into the game because you're really not in the game if your plan is just using 3 unsummons on Reckless Brute.
Right. Now, we will notice that Iyanaga does not hit his 4th land drop, so that's a consideration here as well. Encrust this, and that is kind of like a 2-for-1 because it's going to turn off the Mog Flunkies as well.
Right, the Mog Flunkies doesn't have a buddy, but is about to get one with Blade Tusk 4, which is a pretty good buddy for the Mog Flunkies.
It is, but you know, these unsummons are really going to do a lot of work because they're going to keep the Mog Flunkies at bay. You know, Mog Flunkies being a 2/2 for 3 looks pretty attractive, but there is a downside.
Yeah, there's definitely a downside, and before combat, there is going to be an unsummon. Now, Jun'ya is expending a lot of cards, and he did mulligan, although he did play a divination to get 2 of those cards back.
He did.
And Jun'ya has a Mind Rot in his hand, and he's just waiting for Yuuya to go down to 2 cards just to stop all of this shenanigans.
Yep, and there's the Shade that digs him back yet another card out of the hole. He's going to just play it immediately, so his hand is now exposed. He's got 3 cards in hand. Now, does he have a negate? I know he's main ducking one, and I'm sure he kept it in this matchup.
He does have the negate.
Does he have it in hand?
He has the negate in hand.
Wow. So that means that he could potentially take some damage here. It depends on... this is going to be a tough one because now I see that there's also a Swamp and a Liliana Shade for Jun'ya. He does want to keep his board going. All right, so that negate is now out of the... Not able to, you know...
he can't cast the negate right now. And he has exactly 2 cards in his hand.
Yeah. How many cards? 2. Like, don't you just go for it here?
I love mind rotting my opponent when he has exactly 2 cards.
I think you just mind rot him, get his hand decimated. You've got 5 cards in your hand, and just start committing things to the board.
Yeah, you know, there's a Liliana Shade in play. You take a bunch of damage from that. You don't have any offense or defense just yet, but Yuuya has no cards in hand. He's not doing anything else unless he gets extremely lucky off the top of his deck.
Right. Oh, he's got a Flames of the Firebrand in hand, which he could use right now to get rid of that Shade. He can two to the Shade.
He's got a lot of options, a lot of lines here.
He's got it. I mean, he doesn't necessarily want to let Yuuya untap with the 3 swamps there and just have that Shade sit there forever.
But you have to think, if Yuuya doesn't have any cards in his hand because he just got mind rotted down to 0 cards, he draws a card. We don't know if it's a great card or not. The decision is to use the Flames of the Firebrand on the Liliana Shade. But how likely is it that Yuuya is just going to pump all of his mana into that Shade on the attack? Right?
On an attack.
Yeah, if the Shade were still in play. And
I mean, he's going to pump 3 of it into there so that he can eat the Mog.
Right, so...
All right, Yuuya takes 6.
This is a very different game.
Arctic Aven is awesome in this situation, except for that he really needs that Plains out there to make it bigger and give it lifelink. It can trade, it can dig him out of situations that he normally can't get out of.
Yeah, it's definitely going to trade with the
Reckless. Now he's just going to trade, yeah.
He's going to take the 3 damage from the flunkies. Hopefully there isn't another attacker with that can come down and help the Mog flunkies. But we knew that the Blade Test Board was still in hand, and we have a Liliana Shade that's going to come down.
And he's just going to play the Swamp immediately. Now that Swamp does go into your hand, but he just, well, no, it does go into his hand. So
he's being proper. No shortcuts.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. I just didn't want people to think that.
And there's the plane.
Wow, playing Stormtide Leviathan at the top, so he did not mind rot that thing away, and all of a sudden, Jun'ya Iyanaga's creatures cannot attack, and he's going to be under assault from an 8/8.
8/8s are tough to deal with.
Yeah, now, Watanabe is at 4, though, so there's a lot of draws here. Volcanic Geyser.
I don't know that there's a Volcanic Geyser.
Okay, how about a Chandra's Fury?
I don't think there's a Chandra's Fury
2 Searing
either.
Spears?
He has 1 Searing Spear.
That isn't enough.
And he had a Flames of the Firebrand, which he just used.
Yeah. Okay, wow. So this is actually just a very, very bad spot for Yanagi. He needs to find a way to get rid of that. Now, he can do 5 to the Stormtide Leviathan, but the thing has 8 toughness, so he's going to have to find another way to do that.
Right. Now, Thundermaw Hellkite can still...
That's a card. It can attack because it has flying.
Exactly.
Stormtide Leviathan is one of my favorite flavor cards. I think I'm assuming it was a top-down design, meaning they had the idea for, all right, what if there was a huge Leviathan that just flooded everything? You know, now all of a sudden all the lands are islands because there's water everywhere, only things with... Yeah, the reluctant, I should have done this a turn earlier. Now, I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying that's how he might be thinking.
Yeah, but he does get the negate, so, you know.
Yeah.
Still doesn't deal with this 8/8 Leviathan that's attacking every turn.
8/16/24 would be death. Does he have a murder? I know he doesn't have one in his hand. Does he have one in his deck?
No murders in the deck.
He's got a Turn to Slag, a Servant of Nephirox, and... That is a walking corpse. So, like, he just...
There are no answers to the actual Leviathan left on Jun'ya's deck, but he does have the Thundermaw Hellkite that we talked about, and if he left it in, a Kite Sail.
Wow. Okay, attack. So he has 1 turn to find something here. He has set up a situation where a Kite Sail would do it. Go.
Let's see what we draw.
This is it. He draws a mountain and he scoops up his permanents, and somehow Yuuya Watanabe takes that game, mulliganing to 5, having to burn 3 unsummons in the early part of the game, which was just minus a card, minus a card, minus a card.
But you know what? Those were probably the best unsummons that you can ask for.
Because of Mog Flunkies?
Right, because of Mog Flunkies. Being able to bounce the creature that was accompanying the Mog Flunkies, so that not only do you force Jun'ya to replay that creature that he, the creature that was attacking him, but the Mog Flunkies don't get to attack either. You're just taking 0 damage and you're time walking your opponent.
Hey, welcome back to the booth. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. That was Rashad Miller. What a sick game that was. And did you, I mean, I kind of got this awesome feeling, so he goes, like he drew, it was just a land, it happened to be a Plains, but he just slammed it and just windmilled that Stormtide Leviathan on the table.
You know what, that's actually the first time I've actually seen a Leviathan in play. It is. I'm sorry.
I thought you keeps it real or whatever.
Well, I try to, except when it comes to it's too many islands. Too many islands in that casting cost. Man, we need a forest Leviathan. I don't know what that guy would be called.
That's called a Hydra.
Okay, one of those. I play
we
that one
have
all
plenty
the time.
of those. But man, that card had a profound impact on that board, and Iyanaga could just not find one of the specific answers that he needed to take.
Yeah, I mean, he only had 2 cards that would actually take the game for him, if the Kai'Sa was still in his deck. We don't know. He definitely made some sideboard changes, and that could be one of the cards that came out,
My guess is that he kept it in. He had a lot of trouble in the game that we did see with Liliana's Shade just holding down the board.
Yeah.
And, it would be pretty nice to just send your guy into the air and just go right past it.
Good point.
Yeah. But, man, that was exciting.
Oh, man. I was excited.
I mean, and it was funny because I think that, Yuuya knew he needed to hit that and just windmilled that thing down.
And I think that was a real turning point when Jun'ya had to decide, do I kill the Shade right now?
Yes.
Because I have the opportunity to kill the Shade?
Yes.
Or do I get rid of those last 2 cards?
And that was not a tough decision. You and I were saying that we thought, okay, mind rot him, get him on 0 cards, and then start going to work on him. But the fact is that Shade can be a 4/4, and it could just block and eat all of the things he had. So he needed to find an answer to the Shade at some point to make that plan work. And he just decided this time to prioritize getting the Shade off the table while there was an opening, and then do the mind rot later.
Yeah. I actually think that was actually a pretty good decision.
I don't have any problem with it.
No,
it just so happens that Yuuya was holding an 8-drop in his hand.
Yeah, and you know what? You don't know. I'm sure he knew that was in his deck, and he was probably counting his land as the game progressed. And he's like, well, if he has the land or if he draws into the Leviathan, I'm probably in some trouble. But it's just 1 card.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming, so I wasn't fully aware of that the land count mattered to that level. But like you said, I bet you Jun'ya was keenly aware.
Well, I can't imagine that he wouldn't be. Else he wouldn't be in this tournament.
Yeah, especially given the fact that all of his creatures just were floating around in the water after that Stormtide Leviathan made a big splash.
Yeah, flunkies, they don't swim very well.
No, they don't attack alone, and they don't swim at all.
And they don't swim. And
I do want to go back to what you said, though, about Mog Flunkies. I think it's one of the most interesting cards that's at common here in M13 in that, it's you read it and you're just like, this is too good to be true. It's a 3/3 for 2 mana. Like, this is amazing card, but we got to see the downside of it there with the unsummons.
Yeah, I mean, and Mog Flunkies has been a constructed staple in a lot of the red decks. Even Goblin
is that right?
or not. Or yeah, when Mog Flunkies came out, it was accompanied by a lot of efficient 1-drop mana. Creatures with 2 power like Jackal Pup and the such. So if you're able to consistently go, turn 1 guy, turn 2 Mog Flunkies, then it's easier to attack with your Mog Flunkies. The thing is, in Limited, a lot of the guys you're going to play on turn 1, they're not really that good.
No, there's a pretty high bar to make a 1/1 for 1 in Limited isn't something that you want to be doing very often. So it's got to do something else, and there's just not that many of those around.
Right, and if you're really just playing 1-drops just to accompany your Mog Flunkies, then you're putting a lot on your Mog Flunkies.
I mean, how many Mog Flunkies do you need then to make that work? 3 or 4?
12.
12? The 12 Mog Flunkies deck?
You know what? I'd probably play that because then you just go double Mog Flunkies.
Sure, I mean, they attack together just fine.
They're fine together. But
I mean, some people didn't know that when M13 came out that haven't played with Mog Flunkies before, but if you have 2, they do get to attack together.
Yeah, I mean, that was a question even when Mog Flunky was out. I think it was Tempest.
Yeah.
Yeah, even in Tempest, they were like, wait, if I have 2 Mog Flunkies, can they attack? I'm not sure. How does this work?
Yes, and it does work that way, but they can't do it by themselves, and we got to see a large chunk of that game with Mog Flunkies going, hi.
Hey, where'd he go?
Might be attacking soon.
Where'd that guy go? He's gone again.
All right. I am told they're ready at the news desk for us to send it over. So that is going to wrap up the M13 draft portion. I'm sad too, but we still get Modern, which is my favorite constructed format. I'm just in heaven here this week, or this week. So yeah, I feel very lucky because these are two of my favorite things. But for now, let's send it back to the news desk, and we'll be back after.
Oh, hello. Hi. Yes. Welcome back to the news desk. Rich, Luis Scott-Vargas, everybody. Here he is. So a while ago, they played some Magic, apparently, and then they got really excited talking about it, it turned out. People will do that from time to time. People like talking
I've been there.
Magic.
And that was an exciting game.
It was.
Watching you just slam Stormtide Leviathan.
Yeah, and we were talking with Zach just before that round about, is Leviathan like really a card? Is the format at the right speed where you can get away with it? And then, well, he's in a deck where he can get there just about, and he was down at 4, and then there we are. But, you know, they've talked enough about that game, so let's move on and talk with Luis, who's here at 4 and 5 on the board. So there you see top pro points at large, 29,304 lifetime pro points and counting. All those top 8s are plenty, sure. Umpteen titles, and of course, the Channel Fireball maestro himself. 4 and 5 at this point. Now, I don't think there's a lot of point dealing with calculators and maths and what the 13th tiebreak is. You're back in Modern, just go and beat 3 people, shouldn't be tough.
That's the plan. We did pretty well in Modern. Like the 4 of us who played the same deck, me, Josh, Webb, and PV went 7-1 if you don't count us playing each other.
Sure.
So that's a good confidence boost.
And remind everyone, you're playing the sort of 5 colors, Tribal Flames and friends.
Tribal Flames, Snapcasters, Path, Helix, Bolt, and then Geist of St. Traph's, another big one.
Okay. Magic never stays still. Magic is always developing. There are new cards, new sets, new formats, and so on. But in the last few weeks and in the next few weeks, there's been a lot of change. A lot of new events come along. The first of which, of course, was the World Magic Cup, which you got to take part in. What were your impressions, quite apart from being part of a team that did pretty well, obviously had a ton of expectation, but just what were your impressions, your takeaways from that first WMC?
It was a really awesome tournament. Getting to play with your team, like the day 2 play was really fun. I wasn't even actually playing since everyone else had better records than me, but getting to sit there and kibitz, getting to help them on the deck building for the sealed and just on plays, it made me feel like I was actually still playing in the tournament because I essentially was.
Yeah, certainly talking to Joe Panaccio at the back end of day 2, he was almost wistful about what an amazing 2 days he'd had with the 3 of you. And, you know, it's such one of the big sort of prizes that are out there. It's not just representing your country, but because of the structure where the national champion is the top pro, you know before you go to the first WMCQ that there is a Brian Kibler waiting for you to take you in to that Pro Tour circuit. And I know that Joe and Alex had a fantastic time with the two big names, as it were.
Yeah, it was great working with those guys. They're both very good, and I was impressed by their play. And you know, we got some good testing in beforehand, and so I was really happy with the team. I mean, I wish we had done a little better, but I think everyone except Sushinko can say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, it's one of those things where because it's like the sword of Damocles is constantly coming at you, there's someone out at the end of day 1, 32 teams are out. Only the top 32 go on from day 1. Then it's 16. Then it's 8. There's this just constant slicing. And 12th, very close to 8th. You know, and suddenly
we were a bonfire away. It was on the wrong side of the board.
Yes, indeed. And in fact, Bonfire of the Damned not really done you that proud because that happened this weekend as well. Yeah. What was the story there? Was it a Grand Arbiter was in play and it kind of messed with
No, that was with Price of Progress, but yeah, that was...
okay. But Bonfire, not quite as miraculous as for some people.
Against Hain, I had a Bonfire Char in hand with him at 5 life and with 5 lands in play. Okay. So that means I can charm down to 1, then not cast Bonfire. So
lovely.
That was not so sweet.
Yes, not so sweet. All right, so that was the World Magic Cup, and then attention turns to this event. And again, perhaps even more than with the World Magic Cup, which perhaps people could look at team events from days gone by. This event felt really unique because yes, there've been 16-player events before, but not with hard line, straight down the road formats where everyone knows what's going on, incremental advantage. It felt like it was always going to be super tight this week.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, like I'm not that surprised to be 4 and 5 or 5 and 4. Like having a pretty close to even match win percentage is, I think, what you can expect coming in. There's no gimmies here. Everyone knows what they're doing. So everyone coming in, it's really going to be very close. And I mean, the fact that Xiao has 8-1 is impressive as usual. But other than that, I mean, most people are like at slightly above or slightly below par, and I don't think that's a big surprise given the level of competition.
Sure. So when you come in, you obviously, it's different when there are 7, 11 Channel Fireball team members coming into an event of 400. Because broadly, you can hope that all of you get into day 2, and, you know, and obviously 8 or 9 of you actually will. And then you look ahead and you hope basically to avoid each other until the back 3 or 4 rounds, and then of course you'll start knocking each other out a bit, and hopefully eventually you end up with some of you in the top 8, and that's the goal. You know, as many of you as you can squeeze into the top 8, fine. But this is very different because you're already, if you like, at round 14 of a Pro Tour. Yeah. It's almost like all 16 of you are at 10 and 3. And then off we go, oh, except you've got another 14 rounds to play. And so how do you approach expectations coming in? Because there's a huge amount of money on the line. It isn't just for the glory and honor of saying I beat these great people. It's a massive, massive paycheck at the end of the day. So how do you come into this trying to visualize where you want to end up, or do you just ignore that and just play Magic?
I mean, we just play Magic. We split up into slightly smaller teams because of that problem, because we didn't want to be half the field. I mean, there's 8 of us on the team in the tournament, and you can't really play test for a 16-man tournament with 8 of the people. It just doesn't really work. So we split up into smaller groups, which I think worked out. Owen and Reed came up with Zoo just like we did, so
sure,
completely independently, which is kind of funny. But otherwise, I mean, yeah, like it is unfortunate to play against a friend and a teammate, but on the other hand, it's just going to happen over and over again, and at least you're happy that one of you is going to win. So it's not really a big deal. I mean, I want to play against the best of the best, and you know, luckily that happens to be a lot of the people I know.
Indeed. I'd like to take you back briefly to 2008. You've just won Pro Tour Berlin, and I drag you aside with a great big check and a great big trophy that you've won for the first time at the Pro Tour. And I sit you down and we have this long conversation on podcast, which is still somewhere up at magicthegathering.com. And one of the things you said is that you changed because you stopped playing decks you wanted to play and started playing what you knew to be the best deck. And you didn't allow yourself anymore not to play the best deck. And that was a huge turning point at Berlin for you. But as you move forward, certainly watching you over the years, you're one of the very few people in World Magic who, from my perspective, can choose to focus on Magic and simply beat people. All things being equal, you know, if the lands go wrong, everyone can lose at Magic. We understand this, but your 16-0 run, for example, you were clearly focused on Magic then. There was nothing else. It was just Magic. And when you are just Magic all the time, you are well nigh unstoppable.
Sure.
Which is an amazing place to be. But also, when you're not all focus, all Magic all the time, then you're eminently beatable. And I'm sure you're aware of that too, that you come in sometimes with less preparation and generally have less results. For some people, there isn't a correlation. The John Finkles of the world can sometimes go, yeah, I happen to be passing, yeah, I'll 12 and 4, finish 17th, thanks for playing. So where do you draw the line? We're moving ahead towards Return to Ravnica. You've got a lot going on. You've moved to Denver now. You've still got Channel Fireball responsibilities. You're now game designing, is that right? Out in Denver. So there is another glittering prize on the horizon, which is the Return to Ravnica Pro Tour here again in Seattle, coming up in a few weeks. So how do you make those life decisions about when you focus on what the correct 3-drop should be and when you focus on things that are external to Magic? How does that work?
The funny thing is, like, I actually have been preparing for these events more than I prepare for normal events. Like, the last couple of Grand Prix, like for Grand Prix Atlanta, for example, I played a ton with the Reanimator deck we all ended up playing. You know, I'm not going to say that I'm as focused now as I always have been, but I also don't think that you can look at my level of focus and say that's the whole reason.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
Sometimes you just lose, and
absolutely.
I've been pretty happy. Like, we prepared, you know, our preparation for Barcelona didn't work out so well, but we prepared just as much for that Pro Tour and the Pro Tour before that and the Pro Tour before that. And, you know, you just have different results regardless of how much you test. I do expect that I have to budget my time better now, which I have been doing. But, I mean, we practiced a lot for this tournament and ended up with, I think, a very good modern deck, which is where we spent a lot of our practice on. And yeah, the draft didn't go so well.
Okay, we've said that there's a lot of change around in Magic at the moment, and I want to just sort of close by asking you whether one thing will stay the same. When we get to Pro Tour Return to Ravnica, are we going to see people in Channel Fireball shirts dominating the top tables, which is kind of the story of the Pro Tour over the last few years? What do you reckon?
I think so. I think we're all kind of looking to improve on our Barcelona result, which is not difficult. So I think that's going to give myself and a lot of the other guys kind of the kick in the pants we need to really get it together and make a big impact.
So maybe the more things change, the more things will stay the same. Thank you very much to Luis Scott-Vargas. What we're going to do for you now, we had a little bit of a problem with the stream earlier on, and we know a lot of you like to follow Walking the Plains. Now, they don't have a full episode from the World Magic Cup ready, but they did put together a very special preview for us. So we're going to show that to you once again, hopefully with the stream working, approximately now.
Hello, I'm Nathan Holt, host of Walking the Plains, Wizards of the Coast's new series that delves into the lives of planeswalkers and their experiences playing Magic the Gathering at the highest level of competition. We're here today at Gen Con, one of the biggest, baddest gaming conventions on the planet, where Magic players from all over the world have come together to play for the honor of their home country in the World Magic Cup. Let's take a look around. Okay, you are totally covered in Magic cards.
Yes.
How long did it take you to assemble this outfit?
This took me about 2 hours and about 150 to 200 Magic cards. It's just spare cards that I had available. Just an idea I had. Actually, I made it yesterday, just right before I came.
Wow. What does it mean to you guys to be able to represent Uruguay in the World Magic Cup?
It's a great honor for us to be representing Uruguay. Uruguay hasn't had a team for 9 years, and for the first time a team comes back to the Worlds, and it's just amazing.
How would you describe the atmosphere here at Gen Con?
It's kind of a smorgasbord. There's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You can play any game, obviously, from live action to board gaming and card gamings, and it has a very competitive atmosphere for certain Magic events. I assume for other events too, although I don't participate. You can buy just about anything under the sun if you're a gamer and a hobbyist, and it's just riddled with people. It's wall-to-wall people that are like-minded, and most of my friends commune here every year. It's fantastic. Community, all the activities we love. I wish this event was 2 weeks long.
Our full episode of Walking the Plains about the World Magic Cup will be coming out soon. If you'd like to be notified, you can subscribe to Magic the Gathering's YouTube channel or follow us on Twitter @WalkThePlains. Until next time, I'll see you next time.
Hope you got that all right. Walking the Plains coming your way soon. And here's a man who kind of stars in some of the Walking the Plains episodes. I think you've been out filming today, haven't you?
I have. Some new stuff coming up for the one for this one.
Yeah, okay, so this is Mr. Mark Rosewater, if you don't know, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
The head designer for Magic. And I guess a good place to start, Mark, is that on the website, in the old, much vaunted format of text one letter after the other with some pictures thrown in on the website, which is a very archaic idea these days. It turned out the state of design came along, your annual column looking at the world of design. So the quick summary, how have things gone?
Well, basically what I try to do, following the U.S. President's State of the Union, is just talk about the last year. Magic had a very good year. Innistrad, it might be the high point of Magic's 19-year history. The limited game is very popular. The set itself is very popular. And so I talked about the last year. In general, it went pretty well. I mean, my State of the Union was things are pretty good. I found a few things to nitpick and talk about what we can do better, because we're always striving to be better. But I thought it was a good year.
Okay. One of the things we want to talk about is that we're heading towards Return to Ravnica.
We are.
Now, that's obviously a little bit scary, because anytime you take something as popular as the original Ravnica, you better make sure you deliver it right for all the fans of the first time around. And I think Ravnica pretty much the most popular of all time.
It's one of the most popular, yes, definitely.
It's right up there.
Yeah, so one of the things is whenever we try to revisit something, and obviously from time to time we do that, we want to both have enough nostalgia so the people that have warm feelings about it feel like, oh, we've in fact gone back there, but we've imbued something new, so it's not just a rehash of what we did before. And Return to Ravnica had that sort of marriage of, enough nostalgia with new things mixed together that it's exciting, but yet it's kind of warm and fuzzy.
Okay. Now, it's possible that some people have been hiding under rocks and therefore just really don't know what's going on with Ravnica. So the original had 10 guilds representing the 10 color pairs. So
as does Return to Ravnica.
Right, so that's what so that's exactly the same. Yes. Right? We've still got the 10. There's no sort of 6th color in Magic coming into Return to Ravnica. None of that.
No secret 11th guild.
No, okay. Well, that's what I was wondering. Okay, so we have our 10 guilds. Yeah. Now, mechanically, are they going to be the same, or are they all different? How does that work?
Here's how it works. Our goal was that if you took all the cards that had the watermark from a certain guild and mixed together the cards from Ravnica block and the cards from Return to Ravnica block, they would play nicely together. Meaning, the guilds are what the guilds are about. The general gist of the guilds is the same. Simic plays like Simic. Izzet plays like Izzet. Golgari plays like Golgari. That all the guilds have a similar feel to them, but brand new mechanics. Every single guild has a brand new keyword mechanic. We're not rehashing anything. Right. Each one gets one new keyword.
So we don't need to worry about dredge.
There's no dredge.
Okay, fine. Now, in this very building, the Showbox in downtown Seattle, part of the reason we're in Seattle is because there is the Penny Arcade Expo, or PAX Prime. It's a huge convention here. Just tell us a bit about PAX, because obviously you're in Seattle. I guess you get to do PAX every year. It's pretty crazy, right?
Well, I mean, PAX is, it started, Penny Arcade as a webcomic, and they started having a little convention that just, in the beginning was kind of about, hey, isn't video gaming fun? And it kind of exploded, and now it's about geek culture in general, but it's very much centered on video games and gaming, and just kind of a celebration of a certain sort of lifestyle, so the geek nerd lifestyle, and it's a blast. It's a lot of fun.
All right, and a lot of the sort of big names in the world of video gaming and gaming in general, they come to town. They have giant booths.
Oh, yes.
You
it's
sort of
loud.
Go inside places, and it's like inside a giant, and whatever it is. It's just utterly crazy stuff. And they have parties, don't they?
Yes,
they throw a good party. That's one of the things at PAX. And Wizards of the Coast are going to throw a very nice party in this very building on Saturday. Yep. Now, you may think, why would I care that people half a world away are having a fun party and a good time? Well, we're not just having a good time on Saturday, are we?
No, so one of the things we do at the Magic PAX party, and we've done it for a couple of years, is we use it as a launching pad for the fall set. So we've teased a little bit about Return to Ravnica, but this Saturday, we're letting the door open. We're really giving a whole bunch of previews and really letting people know what's going to be in it. And not everything, obviously, but a lot of teasers. All the mechanics will be spelled out. We'll have a whole bunch of cards for people to see for the first time. So if you pay attention, social media will spread the information out, and our website will also have information on it.
Okay, first time around, the 10 guilds were split into 3 sets, 4, 3, 3. 3.
4, 3, 3.
4, 3, 3. It's like a football formation.
Yep.
Soccer, that is, for those of you who don't know. This time around, we're doing things very differently. We have Return to Ravnica with 5, and then is it Gatecrash with the other 5?
Right. Now, what happens is, previously in the original Ravnica block, it was a large set with 4, small set with 3, small set with 3.
Right.
So this time, Return to Ravnica is a large set with 5. Gatecrash is another large set in the winter. We've never done that, with 5. And then Sinker, doesn't have an official name yet, that's the code name. Sinker will be a small set with all 10. Because one of the things that happened in Ravnica was we would give you your guild, but then that was it. Like, your guild showed up one time, and then done.
Right.
And a lot of people said, oh, it would have been fun once, to have one more chance to see your guild. So what we've decided is, we're going to allow you to get your guild either in Return to Ravnica or Gatecrash, and then we're going to give you a little more. But we've also done something very cool with the drafting.
I was going to say, so how's that going to work?
Okay, so I'll explain. A large set, Return to Ravnica, you will draft it like you drafted any large set.
Fine.
Return to Ravnica, Return to Ravnica, Return to Ravnica.
Yep.
Now, Gatecrash comes out. Put aside Return to Ravnica.
Sure.
You're going to draft Gatecrash, Gatecrash, Gatecrash.
Yep.
Okay, so you'll get a second large set to draft for the year.
Yep.
Then, and this is the fun part, when Sinker comes out, you will draft Sinker, Gatecrash, Return to Ravnica.
Wow, so we sort of get 4 months of RTR.
Yes.
Then a little holiday from that while we explore the world of Gatecrash.
Yep.
And then not only do we go back to return to Ravnica, but we also get everything changing from that in the light of 2 new sets that have come out since.
And then one of the cool things we did is both Return to Ravnica and Gatecrash are aware of what the other one is doing. And so we've layered things in it that when you're just playing one don't really matter, but when you play them together along with Sinker, all of a sudden there's cards that matter in a way that you weren't used to before. And so really we are creating 3 very distinct drafting formats, something we've never done in this regard at all before.
Okay. Why do you think Ravnica has been so successful in sort of growing roots in the minds of the player base? Because certainly you go right back to the dawn of time. I can remember Gerard and the Weatherlight and the Tempest storyline and so on. But Ravnica seems to be something that has really sort of got into the hearts and minds of the people at home.
Well, I'll give you my theory. So I think when you dig down deep, that Magic at its core, the absolute core of Magic is the Magic color pie. And I mean, I've been stating this forever, that I'm a huge believer in the color pie. And I think what Ravnica does is it takes it to the next level. We've said, okay, these are the 5 colors, and Ravnica said, okay, let's take that philosophy and go one step out. What happens when you start joining the colors together? And the colors are so rich that you create 10 very interesting, very neat dynamics. And I feel that for players, the colors are very absolute. That when you start spreading and sharing them, there's a little more substance in the sense that there's nuance to it, that there's not nuance in the 5 colors. And then I think people can identify more easily with the guilds.
Okay, so we have our 10 guilds, 5 here. Now, when people are starting to take this quiz, right? Now, that leads you to one of any of the 10
Correct,
guilds,
one
is
of
that
the
right?
10, yes.
So you sit there and you go, hey, I'm Simic. I'm going to wait a few months.
Well, one of the fun things is when you go to the pre-release, we're going to make you pick one of the 5 guilds in that pre-release. And so you'll get to pick a guild in the first pre-release. Yep. Then at Gatecrash, you'll get to pick a guild from those 5 guilds to choose from. And the Sinker, fun stuff will happen there. And so we really want you to identify, not necessarily with one guild, I mean, it could be one guild, but also sample a little bit, If your favorite guild's in Gatecrash, well, have a little fun in Return to Ravnica.
Well, I don't know if you know this back at home, but it turns out that some stores are running, let's say, 5 pre-releases over the weekend. And there are 5 guilds in Return to Ravnica. Got to confess, I'm going to 5. I'm going to play them all.
Well,
that's the plan.
The other cool thing is when you sign up for a guild, you get a little box. And inside the box, there's like a special die, and there's a letter from your guild leader, and there's all this stuff that's specifically for your guild. I think you get a special guild booster along with 5 Return to Ravnica boosters.
Yeah, now that's really important because what it means is that, particularly in multicolored sets, you do find that sometimes if you're a newer player, trying to work out, well, I've got this green and blue card over here, I've got this black-white card over here, and then I'm really a sort of white-green deck, but how am I going to... The mana can be quite interesting. What these guild boosters do is just, it helps you. You want to be Azorius, let's say, blue-white, you're going to get this special Azorius booster. And the chances are, with the other 5 RTR boosters that you get to see, you're going to be able to build an Azorius deck. And I think that's a really neat way to sort of introduce, because we've seen so many new players now at pre-releases as well. Great to do that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we love about Gold is the players like playing with multicolor, but it is tricky to build. And one of the things we've always been working on is how do we make it easier for the new player to build what is a very difficult build. And we're hoping that the boosters with the guilds will help make this easier.
I'm pretty sure that will happen. Let's talk about Planeswalkers. My Planeswalker history is a little bit rusty.
Okay.
When is the first Planeswalker? What year does the first Planeswalker turn up?
I mean, Lorwyn had the first Planeswalker as a card.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lorwyn was the first set to have Planeswalkers as a card type. There were 5, 1 in each color.
All right. So we're beyond, therefore, the first Ravnica. So Ravnica first time around.
Oh, had no Planeswalkers.
Had no Planeswalkers.
Yes.
So do we know whether any of them might appear in Return to Ravnica? Are we aware of this?
Well, we do know there are 2 Planeswalkers,
Okay.
and one of which we know is Jace.
So we know Jace is along.
Yes,
but
he's
whether,
along.
But whether that is Jace Beleren or Jace the Mind Sculptor or
Well,
Jace...
how about this?
else
I
we
would
know?
say pay attention Saturday night.
Oh, really?
Pay attention.
So, so that big brown package just outside the studio there with sort of giant-sized card might be worth having a look at.
I would pay attention Saturday night. I think,
all right.
And there also is another brand new Planeswalker. I don't think we've revealed who she is yet, but there's a brand new Planeswalker. That's the other Planeswalker. She that we've never met before. Yes.
Okay. So it turns out we're going to be filming at PAX, at the WotC party. Lots of fun stuff going on, lots of guests, lots of chat about all the great new stuff coming out of Return to Ravnica. I must say I'm very excited about this. So
oh, yes. Fun.
It's going to be great. Mark, thank you so much. What we're going to do, we're going to let Mark wend on his way. Thank you, Mark. And what we're going to do is take a look up at the big scoreboard, set things up for you, because Modern is on the way. M13 is now done. Let's get to the big board and take you through what we're looking at. Your leader, and by a country mile, what a performance. It's Shota Yasuoka, 8-1 from Japan. On 6-3, you have Martin Yuuya. He is the only 6-3 in the building, so he has a march on the rest of the field. But look how tight it is from there. This is crazy the way everyone's fed on each other. How many 5-4s? Shuhei Nakamura 1, Brian Kibler 2, David Ochoa 3, Paula Vida Damarosa 4, John Finkel 5, Jun'ya Iyanaga 6, Yuuya Watanabe 7. Now a big thing to remind you of, that is not the standings in terms of tiebreaks, that is just everyone on a 5-4 record. All right, so don't go thinking, oh, Kibler's in 5th right now. That's not how it works. This is just to give you the overall records. On 4 and 5, so maybe still in with a squeak of a chance of getting to 7 and 5 and maybe getting in 4th place, you have Luis Scott-Vargas, Samuel Estrati, Owen Turtenwald, Alexander Hain, and Josh Utter-Leighton. So tight. Suchin Kuo and Reed Duke, they're playing for Pride and for Pro points now. That's the rest of the day for them. There are 3 rounds to go. You can see the whole scoreboard there. And of course, the big names, they're going to be playing against each other over and over. We know that Shota Yasuoka will face Martin Yuuya. So if Shota beats Yuuya, Yuuya will be back down in amongst that mix, because half of the 5-4s will get to 6-4. So it's all getting very, very tight. 3 rounds to go, then a cut to top 4. It's Modern all the way now here at the 2012 Players' Championship. Let's hand you over back to the booth for round 10 of the Players' Championship 2012.